Okay, we've started. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Brad Waldschmidt. I'm a consultant that works with the Nashville Department of Transportation on the Neighborhood Street Traffic Calming Program. I'm joined by my colleague Ellie, and Ellie, I'll ask you to introduce yourself, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Ellie Finn. I'll be helping Brad out tonight, monitoring the chat. If anybody feels more comfortable with putting comments or questions in there, I'll make sure it's addressed.
Excellent. Thanks, Ellie. So we're here tonight to talk about Redmond Lane and traffic calming. This is the second meeting. I believe the first meeting happened, it was either April or early May. And so since then, we've been working with over 20, almost 25 streets throughout Nashville on traffic calming, Redmond Lane being one of them. And here we are tonight to have our second meeting with you all. What we're going to do is we'd like to take about 12 or 15 minutes and go through a presentation. We're also going to show you the traffic calming design that we have prepared for Redmond Lane and talk about that in great detail and show it to you all here. And talk about next steps, talk about the next steps for what it would take to actually get these traffic calming solutions installed on Redmond Lane. And so after about 15 minutes or so of that, if you could hold your questions till the end, we'd appreciate it. We'd love it if we want to get your feedback, we want to get your questions. And we're going to ask you to do that one of two ways. The first is if you can wait till the very end after our presentation, you'll be free to come off and mute, ask questions, we can have some discussion. That'd be wonderful. The second way that you can also ask your questions is you can type in the chat a question if you'd like. There should be a chat function in the bottom right corner if you're on the WebEx, if you're able to see the screen. Either way will work. So either wait till the very end, you can come off and mute, or if you just want to chat at any given moment, that'll work too. So I'm going to go ahead and reshare my screen to get that title presentation up. Ellie, what I'm going to ask you is I just want to ask Ellie, are you able to see the Redmond Lane title screen?
Yes, it's on there.
Excellent. Excellent. I'll assume everybody can see it then if they have access to the WebEx. Very good. So the Neighborhood Street Traffic Calming Program focuses on residential streets, and the main focus is to reduce vehicle speeds along the entire length of these residential streets. We like to focus on 3 E's of traffic calming. The first is education. This meeting is a great example of that, where we as the engineers can educate you about some ways the roadway can be modified for traffic calming. But you are the experts of your street because you live there. And so together we really make a very strong team to try to work together and work on reducing vehicle speeds on Redmond Lane. The second E is enforcement. This is absolutely part of the traffic calming recipe, enforcing the posted speed limits. That's part of it, but it's not one that NDOT has much jurisdiction over. And so it's important, but with NDOT, we can't really do much about the enforcement at NDOT, the Nashville Department of Transportation, but we can do something about this 30. That's the engineering, the actual doing something, looking at the roads and doing something engineering wise to work on traffic calming. This slide is a big reason why the traffic calming program is so important in Nashville. Safety and the vision of having 0 deaths one day on our streets. If something really awful happened, like a pedestrian getting hit by a vehicle, and if that vehicle is traveling 25 miles per hour, that pedestrian has an 89% chance of surviving. But if you look at the very far right on this slide, if that same car is going 45 miles per hour and hits a pedestrian, that pedestrian has a 35% chance of survival. And so we don't want cars hitting pedestrians, but if something unfortunate does happen, we really are working to reduce and decrease these speeds of these vehicles on the street. So if something awful like that does happen, a pedestrian has a much higher chance of survival. And this traffic calming program is one main way that Nashville is working to do just that. This program has had over 450 streets have applied for traffic calming, and back in February, 26 of those were chosen. So many streets have a desire to have safer, lower speed on their streets. 26 of those were chosen. Redmond Lane was one of those 26. That's why we're here talking with y'all for a second time today. Now, Ellie and I've got you covered if it's anything traffic calming related, but we'd like to make sure everyone knows in Metro Nashville about Hub Nashville. You can call 311, or you can go on the internet to hub.nashville.gov. This is for if you have any other concerns or things that you think need to be addressed. It could be a sign's knocked down. It could be you think a stop sign should be somewhere that it's not. If you see a storm drain inlet that's clogged, something that you think the city or Metro Nashville needs to know about, Hub Nashville is the right way to make sure your request or concern gets to the right person at Metro. So I'd just like to make sure everyone knows about this tool. But for traffic calming, we're here. We got you covered. But for anything else, Hub Nashville, it's a great resource. Now you know where you live, but we love location maps. So we're focused on Redmond Lane, pretty much all of Redmond Lane. It starts up at Holt Road, as you know, with the signal, and we are stopping at the county line. So we're looking at all of Redmond Lane that's in Metro Nashville, Davidson County. And then as you go south past Redmond Court, kind of go up that hill where the county line is to Williamson County, that's where our project stops. So that green line mimics what we're describing, but that is the area that we're looking at for this traffic calming design. That was what was applied for, and so that's what we're looking at. Now we want to talk about the traffic calming measures that we've proposed and designed for Redmond Lane. Speed cushions. These are definitely one of the more common and frequent traffic calming solutions that NDOT and Nashville use. If you can see the pictures, there are these black rubberized devices that get bolted into the pavement. At their highest amount mark, they're about 3 inches off of the pavement surface. And they are something that all vehicles must drive over while they're driving along the street. Now, the pictures here have gaps in between them. There are other things called speed tables in which these black rubberized devices would extend across the entire width of the street with no gaps. These pictures in the speed cushions do have gaps. And the reason for that is emergency vehicles. They have a longer axle and a longer wheelbase. So oftentimes if there's an emergency vehicle that really needs to get somewhere, like a fire truck or an ambulance, those front axles, the tires are a little wider. They can actually straddle these speed cushions and use those gaps between the speed cushions. Now, there's so much weight in the back of these emergency vehicles that oftentimes they have extra tires on that back axle. So sometimes those back tires do sort of get up on the ramp up on the sides of the speed cushions, but it's still relatively less of an impact than if these black modular devices were going all the way across the pavement with no gaps. So that's the reason for those gaps in the speed cushions. But this is one of the more common ones, and we'll show you exactly where in just a moment we've proposed these. We're showing a bar graph now that shows that NDOT has done some before and after speed studies. What were speeds on a street before speed cushions? What were speeds on a street after speed cushions? And we are seeing benefits. They are working. So we're seeing these speeds on residential streets that have had speed cushions installed. It's definitely effective. So we feel pretty good that's an effective measure. There's a second component that we're going to see on Redmond Lane. It's these radar feedback signs. They are electronic readout digital signs that actually flash the motorist, the vehicle speed as they're approaching it. And I believe in Nashville, when that number exceeds the posted speed limit, it turns red. Sometimes they flash. I believe the ones in Nashville turn red to kind of let drivers know that, hey, you're doing something you probably shouldn't be doing. You're going a little too fast. So we're using these radar feedback signs, which we have seen some benefits as well throughout Nashville on streets employing these radar feedback signs. So what we want to do is we kind of want to, you know what, one last thing. There's a third thing that I forgot about in the presentation here, pavement markings. There are 2 pictures on this slide here. Neither are Redmond Lane, but they are other streets in Nashville that before the traffic calming program, the white lines on the edges of the street did not exist. It was just a very large area of pavement that without even thinking about it, sometimes can really encourage drivers to want to speed a little faster when they see a very large area of pavement. So even adding these white lines to sort of narrow the vision of where a driver thinks their car should be, it can have a traffic calming impact. Maybe not as effective as speed cushions, but it can be beneficial. So we have proposed elements of all three of these things along Redmond Lane. And now I want to get to the design. We have about 4 or 5 slides of the design that we want to show you all. This first one's very zoomed out, but we're going to get very zoomed in here in a moment. So what we're proposing on Redmond Lane is from the county line all the way to very close to the Holt Road traffic signal. We're proposing those white edge lines along the 2 sides of Redmond Lane on the outer edges. We're also proposing 3 speed cushion locations, so 3 spots along Redmond Lane where we're proposing speed cushions, and we'll look exactly at where we're proposing those here in just a minute. And then we're proposing 1 location of a radar feedback sign. We are not able to design and install speed cushions on very steep hills. It's because if it's too steep, then the bolts could actually shear off. That's part of what the manufacturer actually requires. But we know there's that steep hill kind of south of Redmond Court, and as you enter Williamson County. So we can't put a speed cushion on that hill, but we wanted to design a radar feedback sign for cars going down that hill before they get to the speed cushions. So those are what we're going to look at real quick. So what I'm going to do first of all is we're zoomed in here. We're starting kind of on the southern part of Redmond Lane on our presentation here, right between the county line and Redmond Court. You'll see there's that radar feedback sign that we're proposing. So as cars are going down that hill, hopefully they're going the posted speed limit or less, but if anybody's going faster, then that speed readout will show their actual speed and turn red to let them know. And then as you go north, you go down the hill, you go past Redmond Court, there's going to be our first speed cushion location on Redmond Lane. And we've proposed that right kind of between the 6544 and the 6548 street addresses. I think it's more so in front of the front yard of 6548, but it's between those 2 driveways. And as you can see from the graphic here, many of these speed cushions will also have the yellow diamond warning signs on signposts, so that cars, not only will they see the speed cushions in the road, they will also see signs on the side next to the road, knowing that there's a speed cushion coming. They need to be prepared that they're about to drive over those. So I'm going to go now past Stone Run Drive and go to the next sheet. This is the next sheet that's got 2 additional speed cushion locations between Stone Run Drive and the traffic signal at Holt Road. The next one is in front of the 6524 street address, and then the last speed cushion location, the northernmost one, is in front of 6512. So again, that's a total of 3 locations for speed cushions, 1 radar feedback sign for that kind of steep downhill as you're leaving Williamson County and entering Metro Nashville, Davidson County, and then white edge lines along Redmond Lane, just to sort of give the driver of vehicles that kind of narrower cone of vision. Those are the 3 elements that we've proposed. And then the last slide for that design is just, this is for the speed cushion locations. If you were to go right above them and look straight down, this is sort of what they would look like. They'll be in sets of 3. And that's kind of what they would look like at each of the, so each of the 3 locations, each will have 3 cushions at each location. So we definitely want to come back to this. So if we have about a few more slides to cover, but once we get into the questions and the feedback, we can absolutely come back to these if anybody would like. So as far as where we're at in the process, this is the second meeting. The next step is very exciting. It's going to be a voting period, the online ballot, in which the property owners along Redmond Lane will have the chance to vote on whether, yes, you want this traffic calming design, or no, you do not want this traffic calming design. We, just like the mailers that you should have received for this meeting, there will be one more mailer that's going to be sent out in the next few weeks. It's going to be a mailer ballot. It's going to look a lot like the meeting mailers, but on the screen here, it's going to look very similar to that upper left corner. And it'll have a website, and you'll be able to go to the website, the voting website, which is kind of what the bottom right, or excuse me, the bottom left of this screen shows, and you'll be able to put in your name, your address. Every mailer ballot will have a secret, unique code that you'll put in just to make sure you are who you say you are, and you'll be able to vote. yes, you support this, or no, you do not support this. And we'll also have this design that I just went through with you all up on the website. So you'll be able to view the design if you wanted to check real quick before you vote again, or someone's not in this meeting, but they want to vote. That design will be up there for them to review as well. So when we send these ballots out, that'll begin a 6-week voting period. And at the end of that 6 weeks, we at NDOT will tally up all the votes. We'll see how many people actually voted. And then we'll look at, of the people that voted, did 2/3 or more of the people that voted vote yes? And if so, then this traffic calming design is going to happen. It'll get installed. NDOT will start moving things forward. If it is not successful, of all the votes, if that 2/3 threshold is not met, then this traffic calming design will not move forward. And we will work with the applicant and perhaps the council member on the next steps. More than likely, the wide edge lines and the radar feedback signs are going to happen either way, whether it's a yes or no. So really, this voting's for the speed cushions. That's really what the crux of the vote is for the speed cushions. But even if it's a no vote, we'll likely still do the wide edge lines and the feedback signs. The vote's more for the speed cushions along Redmond Lane. And this is just one quick image of demonstrating that it's any property that has property along Redmond Lane. So even if they're, say, if it's a house that has a Redmond Court address, but they're on the corner there and their side yard is along Redmond Lane, they're eligible. They have a piece of their property touching Redmond Lane. They're in Nashville, Davidson County, and they are a residential property owner. Those are the eligible voters for this particular vote for traffic calming. So the next steps, I mentioned that the voting cards will go out in the next 2 weeks, and then it'll open up the 6-week voting period. If it's a successful vote, NDOT will then order the materials from the manufacturer. They'll get fabricated and sent. We're seeing that can take up to 4 months. And then after that, NDOT will get the contractor lined up to install these, which could take an additional 4 months. Now that 4 months plus 4 months, that's a long time. The good news is that the traffic calming programs had so many successful votes over the many recent months that the contractor is very busy installing speed cushions all across Nashville, which is good for safer streets. But I will say that NDOT is also working, and we're seeing opportunities to reduce these timeframes. So this is sort of an expectation for the time frame, but just know NDOT, we are working to make these timeframes, if anything, be shorter. But this is just a general idea of how long the next steps could take. So this is my last slide for questions. Again, my name is Brad Waldschmidt. Feel free to come off of mute if you want to ask any questions, and Ellie, my colleague, is going to monitor the chat if you prefer typing in your questions in the chat box, but I'll open it up to the floor.
Hey, this is Mark Jones at 1009 Redmond Court. I two questions or one statement. I have not been getting these mailers in the mail, so if I could be put on that list, that would be great.
Absolutely. So you said you're at 1009 Redmond Court?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. I'm looking at a map really quickly. Yeah, that's interesting. We'll have to check into that, because yeah, you certainly should have been, because I see that you have property frontage along.
Yeah, we're right here on the corner. So
yeah, we'll have to look into that. And you said you're Mr. Mark Jones?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to take a note real quick, because I want to see if you never know with the mail, but I want to make sure that we at least have our information correctly. And certainly for the voting, if we for some reason have been missing you, we want to make sure we get you added. So thank you very much. I've made a note of that.
Yeah, when I saw where you had to have that unique ID, I wanted to make sure I had that. And the second question, with the speed cushions and the big yellow signs, are those signs permanent? I've seen some streets where those signs come down after a period of time, or will those remain on the street?
In the traffic calming program, the intent is for those signs to remain.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
This is
Okay.
this is Amy George over at Mark's house.
Yes.
I'm 1000 Redmond Court. I'm up on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like speed sign, the speed sign is going to be like on my corner?
Yeah, so the radar feedback sign,
Radar, yeah.
what I've done is I've brought up, for anybody who can see the screen, I've brought up the second sheet that kind of zooms in on that. And the radar feedback sign is kind of along Walnut, or it's not Walnut Hills Drive there. It actually, I think it's Redmond Lane at that point in Davidson, but it's very close to the Redmond Court intersection,
Okay.
but it's pointing upward. So if people are leaving Williamson and they're going down that hill, the radar feedback sign's going to be pointing at those drivers going down that hill. So I apologize, I don't have all the addresses on here, but it's right across from 6556,
Right.
right there near
Well,
Redmond Court.
My only concern with that is I don't want somebody getting distracted looking at their speed and not paying attention to who's coming out of Redmond Court. You know, it's just a distraction when you look at the sign and you're taking your eyes off the road.
Yeah, I think that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is if cars continue to speed and nothing calms them, could that be a dangerous turnout spot for Redmond Court? Or could the radar feedback sign even possibly decrease vehicle speeds even by a little bit, would still be a benefit? So I kind of see both sides of that, and that's just my initial thought, I guess.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Evening, everybody. Councilman Swope here. Sorry I'm late.
Hey, welcome, council member.
Brad, I appreciate you doing this, and I appreciate you continuing to do this. It has been an honor to serve for 8 years, but I am not going to be the council member after September 14th. So thank you all.
This is James Reed. Can I be heard?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I couldn't talk on the last meeting, but I did get to hear. I heard it. But something that needs to be addressed too is when they come off a Holt Road, a lot of people think it's a drag strip towards the hill.
That's right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and if people are turning off a Holt Road and then on Redmond Lane, they're trying to drive really fast. That's one of the reasons we're here working on traffic calming. We think the wide edge lines, also those 3 locations of speed cushions that cars will have to drive over, hopefully will do something about that in a positive way.
Yeah, I'm the second house on the right, and I can look and see if anything's coming and reach and get my mail, and they already passed me, if you know what I'm saying.
I do.
They're doing a little bit more than 30.
I do. Well, yeah. So that's one of the things these speed cushions are intended to do, is to slow cars down along Redmond Lane. So if people are treating Redmond Lane like a drag strip, maybe they shouldn't be. The hope is that these speed cushions will really deter people from wanting to or being able to drive as fast.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. I've been out here 37 years. It's about time.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
This is Mary Alexander. About the voting process. So will we be notified whether it's a yay or a nay?
So the Redmond Lane was applied for, and I apologize, but I do not remember who, but someone's name and address or a group of people were on that application. And so what NDOT typically does is they will notify the applicant and the council member of the results, whether it's successful or not. And so I just, my ignorance tonight, I cannot remember who, if any, you may be on the call for all I know, but okay.
Yes,
so,
I am.
okay, so that's the process, is NDOT will reach out to notify whether it was a yay or nay vote after the 6-week voting period.
Okay, so I counted, and there's like 16 properties. And so we've got to get 66% vote for this.
So I haven't done your math, but that sounds right. It sounds about like 16 properties is right. But after we will count and look for 2/3 of the people that actually vote. So we are not looking for 2/3 of 16. We'll be looking for 2/3 of those that actually vote.
So a person does not vote, that doesn't mean no.
Correct.
Oh, I like that. Thank you.
Yes. So We did have a earlier process several years ago in which it was a flat percent of the entire street, and that's been changed in the past 12 months or so. So now it's the 2/3 of the people that care enough to vote either way.
Excellent. I like that. Thank you.
Hey, Brad, can you
Hey,
hear me?
Ellie. Yes.
Looks like we've got a question in the chat. I'm not sure if I understand it, but it says the yellow median lines, I hear the white lines are going to be in. Why not just include yellow as well? Is one more effective?
Right. So, yeah. So the question is basically, I believe our traffic calming design, we're proposing the white lines on the edges. I think the question is why not also do the yellow ones? And one of the reasons is we do think that what we've seen, and this isn't just Nashville's opinion, we've seen this kind of across the country. The white edge lines, we really want to work on narrowing the area where vehicles feel like they're supposed to be driving. And so that's kind of the narrowing is sort of what we're focused on. Another reason is there have been studies that have been occurred where if there are wide edge lines, cars are usually inclined to drive a little maybe closer to the middle of the street. Which on a residential street, they shouldn't be driving fast. It's usually a little better. Whereas the double yellow, usually people will kind of shy a little further away from that double yellow line, closer to the edges. And in the residential streets, especially Redmond Lane, where there's a lack of sidewalks, we understand that some people may want to be walking and enjoying Redmond Lane on foot. And so our thought of not doing the double yellow is we don't want to install any pavement markings that maybe even subconsciously cause any motorists to want to veer a little more toward the outside. We really want to try to push them more in, combined with the white edge line narrowing. So I would say that's the most concise version I can think of for the wide edge lines being a traffic calming solution, but not the double yellow.
Great, thank you.
Yep, very welcome. Excellent. Appreciate everyone's questions or feedback. What else are people thinking about?
So you said that the cards will be sent out in a couple of weeks after this meeting?
Yes, after this meeting, those mailer ballots, which will look very similar to the meeting mailers, those will get sent out in the next couple of weeks. Yes. So I don't know that you'll get them this week, but I would expect that by the end of next week, you should start to see some of these mailer ballots hit your mailboxes. And that would begin the 6-week voting period that we kind of open up.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Yep. Excellent. Well, this is great. I mean, we really appreciate the feedback and the questions. We want to make sure we stay as long as needed so people kind of understand the design and any next steps. Any other questions or feedback?
I think it sounds good. I just hope we get it done.
That's right. Well, we send those mailers out, but you know, nothing's stopping you all from making sure your neighbors on Redmond Lane know about what's coming up if they don't already. So yeah, our next step will be to send those ballots out, put the design up on the webpage, and then start counting the 6 weeks and just kind of waiting. So that's kind of what NDOT does. But the neighborhood is free to, you know, make sure that their neighbors know about it so they can become educated and vote as they'd like.
All right.
Excellent. Well, if there's not any more questions, yeah, I guess we can go ahead and adjourn. I will ask, you know, I think it was Mr. Mark Jones. Are you still on the call?
Yes, sir.
Would you be willing to hang on after the meeting? I want to try to figure out maybe why you haven't been getting those mailers, but it doesn't have to be the whole meeting. But I was wondering if you could hang on afterwards for just a quick minute.
That'd be just fine.
All right, I appreciate it. Well, thank you everybody for joining the meeting. Councilmember Swope, thank you for joining as well.
Thank you, Mark. Or Brad, sorry.
Yes, absolutely. Hope you all have a good rest of your evening. And yeah, Mark, I'll hang on for just 1 minute. We can chat.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.